Hi everyone, welcome to the live stream for 2026. This is the second stream for the year and I am looking forward to answering some questions. I've only got an hour this morning. It's early, it's a Monday morning, but I am committing to do this, and this is going to be the regular time that I will do this stream. So today will be, it's 9:30 now, I have to go at 10:30. So I will we'll answer some questions, and I've got some questions to answer from the channel, even just this week. It's been busy already as we get into the new year. So I'm going to, just get those organised. It always takes a few minutes, sometimes even half an hour, for people to be notified, I think, of these streams. So I will get these organised, get these on the screen, and we'll start answering the questions that we've got already to answer. So let's go. This will be, let's have a look what we've got for today. So I hope everyone's doing well. Some people get it back into the new year straight away. You go back to work, or maybe you're still on holidays. And I've started back to work on Friday last week, just for Friday and Saturday. Then had a lovely day off yesterday, and now it's Monday and it's back. This is going to be a busy new year for me. I'm just looking for these questions. So these are in no particular order. They're just ones that have come, that I've found from the channel this week. So I'm going to, what's happened here? Why is my thing not there? Let's see if we can put that there. There we go. All right. So I hope you are, or everyone is, doing well. Getting ready for the fun of the new year. Here's the first question. Okay, so this is from someone on the channel just a few days ago, or yesterday, I think even. And this is on a video for damp heat. So it was called teas for damp heat, and they were asking about these teas. And I think these are the herbs I can't remember, because I made this video quite a while ago. I'm pretty sure these are herbs that I'd mentioned in the video, but I can't be sure because I honestly do so much of this stuff I can't remember what's what sometimes. I'm just going to check that the audio is good on here. The only way I can do that is to just literally go into the YouTube and check it myself on here. So please bear with me for a sec. So this is asking if I have an infection, does Laurencia japonica or Forsythia work? So they're using the Western names, or the Latin names, which is fine, but that's not what I would normally do. I'm just checking the audio. Just give you one sec. Okay, great. That's working good. So they're talking about Jin Yin Hua and Lian Chao. So the first one, the Laurencia japonica, whatever it is, japonica. You can tell I don't use those names. I just know them by their Chinese names. Is Jin Yin Hua. Now so there's a couple of things to mention about this type of a question. So those two herbs in Chinese medicine, they clear heat, and they also in the category of clearing what they call toxic heat. Now, in the Han Dynasty, they didn't have the word infection. They just didn't use that word. But it's the same thing. But it's not always the same thing. So, for instance, like in Western medicine, when they say an infection, they usually mean like there's some kind of, like they're going to use antibiotics for treating bacteria. Like that they'd be, I don't know, that's not what this person's asking, antibacterial. So usually when we think about something that's good against infection, it would maybe mean that it's antibacterial. Now, it probably is research on these herbs for that. There likely is. I can't say that there isn't, because the Chinese love to do that kind of research. But they treat toxic heat, and the things that fall into the category of toxic heat often are infection, but they aren't always infection. So what I'm saying is you don't have to have an infection to be able to use these things, but they can be used for that kind of thing. So in Chinese medicine, we have to think about it in the framework of Chinese medicine. One is that otherwise you're not really doing proper Chinese medicine, like as in if you say, oh, this herb's antibacterial, this is antiviral, and I've got a virus, I want to treat that virus. That's not really Chinese medicine, actually. That's Western medicine using Chinese medicine as a substance. So when we use these cooling herbs, so these two herbs are not just very cooling, but they're cold in nature. There has to be caution with that. Now, there are some times when we need that. If you've got a raging infection, and it's the same as when you need antibiotics. Like people have died in the past where now they wouldn't have died. Could they have had antibiotics treatment? So it is a life-saving medicine. But on the other hand, so there's two sides to every situation. On the other hand, if you feel a bit of a sore throat and you take antibiotics all the time, you're going to end up with what they call antibiotic resistance. Now, do these herbs give you that kind of resistance? I don't know. But I can only say a couple of anecdotal type of cases. But they are not treating the cause of the problem at that point if you're using them all the time. So this is way more than what this person is asking in this question. Okay, so if you have a question, you feel free to ask it in the chat. That's what these things are for, so that I can catch up on questions and give a proper answer. These things take time. It's easier for me to answer them all in a live stream than for me to actually just go into the comments and reply to comments. In many cases, because they need more of a nuanced kind of answer. So the answer is yes, I can't say they're going to work because we don't know the extent of the infection that you have. And there are other herbs that are even colder than these herbs that could be used. But what's great about Jin Yin Hua and Lian Chao, so I'll put that in the chat if people are interested in the names. That's the first one that they mention. And Lian Chao, is that they're usually quite readily available, like they're easily available off the shelf. Now, interestingly enough, they are firstly the Lian Chao is not used in classical Chinese medicine very much, if at all, and the Jin Yin Hua is used very rarely. It's not used that commonly. And that's because we have more of a system that protects the yang and is much more careful of using these colder herbs. So that's the caveat there. Like you can't it's not a good idea to sip on freezing cold herbs all the time, because that in itself is damaging the yang and you're not really treating the cause of the problem, why that's happening. But if you've got something acute, they can work to treat these acute toxic heat things. That's what they're there for. So Chinese medicine would call the word what you might say is infection, they'd call it toxic heat. An abscess kind of condition, right, where there's a pocket of like pus or infection stuck in an area, even those herbs are probably not strong enough to flush out that toxic heat. So that abscess sort of scenario. But before it got to that, they can be used for that. So hopefully that's a good enough answer for you. For the new people that are jumping in, welcome to the stream and feel free to ask a question. This is a Q&A Q&A session. I've only got a short amount of time today. I've only got an hour, so I have to go at 10:30. Let's do another one. This is a little bit more of a longer question, I think, here, about blood deficiency. So let's see if we can put this. I might have to put it side by side with me. There we go, that'll do. Okay, cool. That's something like that will do. That'll be all right. Put myself like that. So this question is about, I'm just going to wait for it to come on this screen, on a video about blood deficiency. So it was talking about how long, it was another Q&A, how long does it take to treat blood deficiency with Chinese herbs or with treatments? And someone says, I read these herbs help build your blood: dungwei, white peony, that's baishao, ginseng, schisandra, which is wuweizi, goji berries in brackets, which, yeah, you can just call them gochizi as the Chinese name, and astragalus. So they do and they don't. Some of those herbs are blood tonic herbs. Some of those herbs are not directly blood tonic herbs. Oh, good morning, Jacqueline. Cool. Good to see you here. You're a frequent commenter. And that's good. So firstly, to treat any pattern of disharmony in Chinese medicine, it's a formula, not a one herb. It's a formula of herbs. It's Sijunza tongue, Suwu tongue. These are TCM formulas, okay, for blood and qi deficiency. They're not the formulas I use in my clinic in a classical sense, but let's say for blood deficiency, we might have something like dungwei sini tongue if a person was very cold. And there is obviously dungweis in its name. And there's a bunch of other herbs that do other things. So if we talk about that particular formula, it's not the most common blood deficiency type of pattern, but it is one. And that particular person would have freezing cold hands and feet. Like, it's just part of the pattern. They're very cold. So their blood, that formula is treating the blood. It's by warming the blood. And I am getting to the answer of this question by doing that. Now, in that formula, every single herb in there isn't a blood tonic herb. Okay, so it's got dungwei, it's got cinnamon, guija, it's got like baishao, which is one of the herbs she's mentioning here in this thing, or white peony, that's baishao. And then it's got some really, really warming things in there to kind of add the warmth into the blood. But you couldn't take one of those necessarily by itself and have the same result. So Chinese medicine is a formula system. And that's what you get when you go to a practitioner. Not that they're making the formula up willy-nilly. They're making it specifically for you. So I'll get off this one now in a minute because people have got the other questions. So I might make a longer video about this because it's kind of could lead into a longer discussion here. But so ginseng isn't a blood tonic herb, but does it help you if you're blood deficient? Yeah, because if you're blood deficient, you're probably going to be fluid deficient in a way. But not every person who's blood deficient is also fluid deficient, and that's where the nuance of these like the intricacy of Chinese herbs comes into it, right? So you can do some help for yourself by cooking with herbs, like adding dungwei into a soup. That's one herb into a soup and having that as a food. But to use these things as medicinal substances, and you're saying you read these herbs build your blood, like mixing those all together at who knows what ratios you're using, that's going to create a new compound. And I don't even know what that's going to do. The only way we know what the formulas do is because they've been in use for all that time, and the ratios have to be exactly the same as what they've always been, right? So astragalus, that's huang qi, is not a blood tonic herb. It more, like in TCM, they think of it as helping the immune system and helping qi, tonifying qi. And it's really used for things like numbness and repair of the tissues, repair of the body, like repair of nerves, repair of the skin, that kind of stuff. Like, it's really good for those things. Now, some people with blood deficiency can have that, but technically, if you're in an exam as a TCM or even a classical Chinese medicine student, and you said give some blood deficiency herbs, and you said astragalus, you'll be wrong. But is that used in some blood deficiency cases, or can it have an effect? Yes, it can. So the last one's sangye, no. So that's why I'll quickly answer. Sangye is a mulberry leaf, and it's cooling, and it doesn't do any of those things. So be careful, because mulberry The mulberries, as in the mulberry fruit, is a blood tonic food. But sangye, the leaf of the mulberry tree, is a cooling herb. It doesn't tonify at all. So it's like more like you've got a sore throat. When I was studying Chinese medicine, I used to be, like you're trying to do all these different things that are unusual for you. And I used to gather up Chinese herbs I would find in the community sometimes. Someone had a mulberry tree, I'd get all their mulberry leaves and dry them and stuff like that. And then you can make that into a tea for a sore throat, but it's often used with the previous herbs I mentioned in that other thing with the lian chow and the Jin Hua and sangye kind of all together. But sangye is the mulberry leaf is a herb you can just find. If you can find someone with a mulberry tree, you just gather the leaves and then make sure you dry them properly so they don't go moldy or anything. And so let's get some of these questions here. Right, Jacqueline, you are the number one. I can't say number one, but as in you're one of the number ones of the interested people on this channel, interested enough to ask questions, which is good. Are you studying Chinese medicine in any way, Jacqueline? Like, are you just interested in it? I'm just putting your question up on the screen while I get this organised here. Here we go. And I don't know if I can really answer this first one very well, but we'll try. And we've got a question about Fu Ling from Stephen. All right. Cool. All right. So Jacqueline says, how long before we see results after getting acupuncture and herbs treatment? This is I think I did make a video on the channel about this, like an actual video just for this question. This is a hard one to answer because there isn't exactly an answer. But I'll give you some. I'll give you some. We'll try and give you an answer. Let's say. So one of the ways we can answer this is from research studies. So that's a modern use of Chinese medicine, and they will do studies on people and show the amount of treatments, the frequency of treatments, the results that they got. And that's definitely something where practitioners are probably going to give you more of a better idea. So if you want to say, if you do this, like say for instance with something like plantar fasciitis, which is a random thing, or you have so if you have a particular complaint, that's when we could look up research studies on that. Now, some of the flaws there can be because the study just didn't have enough participants in it. It wasn't randomized properly, or there wasn't proper good enough placebo controls and things like that. That can all be part of it, okay? But let's say there are some studies on some things, and then if there's multiple studies on stuff, then they'll say 80% of the people got 50% of the pain reduced if they completed the course of the treatment, which might have been often what you'll find with those things. For acupuncture, it's more times than you think it will be to go in for treatment. Like they're doing it 3 times a week for 6 weeks, something like that. That's common. They're doing twice a week at least in most research studies, because think about it, in the research study they want people to get a result, as in they're doing the research so that they can try and show that it's working. Companies that hate acupuncture aren't doing research studies to try to disprove it, and there's just not much money in research studies to put towards research studies anyway. So that's why there's not that much money in because the people that benefit would be people like myself, like individual practitioners, not conglomerates of these massive organizations. Now, for Chinese herbs, there is more research on formulas for things, and what they do is they'll take a standard formula like Xiao Chai Hu Tang, and they'll modify it with something random so that they can create a proprietary medicine. Okay, so that then they'll sell like Super Chai Hu Tang, Super Xiao Chai Hu Tang, or something. I'm just making that up, right? And it'll be just used like something random, like it'll be just used like, I can't think of something now, but something that isn't normally added to it that they've done for some reason, right? Xiao Chai Hu Tang plus, I don't know what's something on here, which you probably wouldn't have, like I don't know, plus Mudam P or something, and then it'll be like, for period pain. I don't know, right? Whatever, something like that. And they'll try to try to show, these people took this medicine, and then they can placebo control it against another thing. So that's one of the ways. So to get results, you'd have to just look up the studies or have your practitioner do that. And for the condition that you're seeking treatment for, right? Now, if something has just recently happened, this is what I would tell my patients, just in general. And it's also very hard for me to give an in general answer because, like, I can tell if someone called me on the phone and said, this is what's going on, Marie, I'll say, this is what I recommend you would normally need to do for what's going on for you, okay? Because the most patients I see have got complicated stuff going on. I've never seen a patient, well, I can't say never, but it's rare for me to see a patient where they're just like, oh, my one finger is doing this weird thing. And I want to treat this one anomaly that's happened to my body. And if you are seeking help for that, and I know this from myself, doing the stuff on myself, it's easier, it's quicker to treat this stuff if you get it straight away. You're treating it straight away, and that's Chinese medicines are really great for that. But in the real world, only practitioners and keen students and people like that will seek help or give themselves help for those things straight away. Now, if you're under the care of a practitioner regularly, so some people just come and see their acupuncturist once a month, once every 6 weeks, almost like no matter what, then they can often pick up these things before they become bigger issues for you. And for some people, that works very well as a maintenance thing for them. And they don't necessarily realize the benefit that they're getting from that regular treatment because they never see what would have happened if I didn't go and do all that regular treatment. So there isn't that much research showing that, right? And that's almost like a good example would be, I'm sorry if I'm waffling on about your answer because I can't say, 6 weeks or 10 weeks, or it's just not an answer like that. Yeah, so I can't remember what I was saying just then, but I'm trying to give an answer without the waffling on, but I think people do come here for a bit of the waffling on, I guess. So I would say if you're not doing herbs and the problem has recently happened, as in the last week, you're better off doing the treatment more frequently, as in at least once a week, if not twice a week, and then maybe 4 to 6 treatments, depending on how severe the injury or the thing has happened to you is. And I usually say to my patients, plan to do that. If it gets better before then, that's great. And that's often then happens. People have 3 treatments, they're like, they're better. And I've seen patients where I've told them, you're going to need to do this every week. And they agree to do that. And I say for 6 weeks, right? And they're often FIFOs. So in Perth, we have a lot of people that live in Perth, but they fly in and fly out. So that's what a FIFO is, fly in, fly out. My brother says I always say that wrong, FIFO, you're supposed to say. I call them FIFOs. And so like they're away for 6 weeks, or some of my patients are away. They're away for 2 weeks, 21 days. They might have 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, these kinds of things. So they can't literally come in for the treatment. Now, I am doing a lot of patients with herbs, so it's more common that the herbs are going to be doing something too. But I have seen patients where I've given them one treatment, they've come back 4 weeks later because that's the best they could manage because of their work schedule, and the pain is heaps less, and more less than I would think it would be just from the one treatment that we've done. So that can happen, right? But in general, acupuncture is a dose-related thing. It's like the same as with herbs. Like you don't just do it once and it fixes everything. So it's like, and plus the other thing is it's doing something the first treatment, then the next treatment, and hopefully what we want to see is for it to resolve, not for you to be left with like, oh, but every time I do this, I've always got this weird little thing. And then you're carrying those things around with you all the time in your life, and look, even me who can treat myself, like sometimes things take longer than you would think. Like a few weeks ago, I just bought this new chair that I'm sitting on here on Temu, right? And it's an awesome sort of retro chair, and I'm wondering whether it was the chair or it was just going to happen. But I got sciatica, like as in I just was like, oh, my back's a bit sore. Now that has happened from time to time. I was like, oh, my back's a bit sore. And I was like, I'll just give myself some acupuncture. So I did that. And it was like the next day I was like, man, this is so sore, still sore. I couldn't sit on my new chair because it's sort of curving around the sides like this. And I was like, oh, like sitting there, I'm stretching my leg out because it was just so bad. And then I had to go to a course, and I was like, how am I going to sit in this course for weeks and weeks? Not weeks and weeks, but it felt like that, days and days. Sit on the plane for like 5 hours. And, this is me treating myself. And I'm every night after I'd finished my work, I would lie on the couch and give myself acupuncture and moxa. And I tried all the different things that we would normally do, like the distal needling, and then I was doing gallbladder 30, which is like a point on your bum with the moxa, doing it on my own. And you can do that on myself. And I was nearly at the point where I was thinking, I'm going to have to go and see somebody else because this isn't working. And then it just fixed up. It just resolved. Right, but it was almost 2.5 weeks of being in pain and treating myself every day. And and I was taking herbs as well. Took all kinds of Chinese herbs. Because at the start, it wasn't really back pain. It was groin pain. It was like, oh my gosh, this is it was just so bad. The pain was so bad. Now, people who get acupuncture regularly tend to respond better to acupuncture the next time around. That's also a thing, right? I find that with my patients that I'm going to just grab the next question while I do this. People that let me see, what question will we answer next. We'll just do these in order. Some of these I won't put on the screen because I can just answer them quickly. Right. Marco, hello Marco. Welcome to the channel and the chat and everything. So we're going to answer Stephanie Catmum. That's a cool name. Stephanie Catmum's question in a sec. So I can't remember what I was just saying at the end of that thing. Like sometimes, the more you've done acupuncture, usually the quicker it works again. So let's say you've had an issue with your back or your shoulder or something like that, and it's been resolved. And then you go back and see your acupuncturist when it sort of starts to flare up. So I normally tell people to come in if you start to feel it getting tight before it's painful. Then you usually maybe only need 1 or 2 treatments. I've seen that quite frequently. Okay, so I can't guarantee that that's going to happen, right? Anyway, the herbs question is going to be really specific. Like how long does it take to treat with herbs? That was the previous question to the one on screen. Is going to be based on what the formula is really like and what's wrong with you. And yeah. I definitely have found things get better. Otherwise I wouldn't be keeping on doing the classical system of Chinese herbs. Let's say you're treating a blood deficiency, let's say, because in classical Chinese medicine, often we see yang and blood together. We're using more yang tonics along with the blood tonics. It tends to work better than just what I used to do in TCM, which was only tonifying blood. So, maybe cuts off 6 months to 3 months of treatment, I would say, like on average. Not for everyone. Some people, they come to you and they're already so unwell that where you're starting with, it's never going to resolve. It just will make they have to stay on the herbs, but they'll feel heaps better staying on the herbs. All right. I can't say it's never going to resolve, but it just takes a long time, like months, years, even. Right. Okay. Stephanie Catmum says, how would I understand about fooling in both Western and Chinese medicine terms, TCM terms? I don't know how much I can give you about Western medicine terms. So fooling or poria is its other name. There's probably some here on the shelf somewhere. Where are you? That's fooling. There we go. Put it in the camera. So they often call this feng fooling, which just feng means squared. So they basically made it into a little square. And this is part of the fooling plant as well, which is tu fooling. Like it's the same plant. It's just a different part of it. So it can be like, Now I think it's a fungus, a type of a fungus. I have to be doubly sure like that. So what it does is it drains dampness in TCM, right? And it flushes out damp. It helps with fluid metabolism. It pushes fluids out of your body. Like I said at the start of this stream, we would never use Fuling by itself. Like, you can't make a Fuling drink, a Fuling tea by itself. It's just going to be, I don't know what that will do. I just don't know. But that's not how Chinese herbs work, right? So it works in cahoots within formulas. It's often added to formulas that would do something else. So let's say if someone had fluid retention, they've got edema, lots of puffiness, the Fuling will help to push that water out of the body. But you need other herbs in that formula to either help with the internal water metabolism, that's like, I just don't know. Fuling by itself isn't, going to do something significant. So every single Chinese medicine is a Chinese herbalist is a formularist. Like, they do formulas, not individual Chinese herbs. But you're saying, how would you understand it? Look, there's textbooks, there's Formulas and Strategies, which is a standard textbook for Chinese medicine. It's a big, massive book. The book before that is called the Materia Medica. It's a blue book. And that kind of has the stuff about the herbs. You can go on to Google. I mean, you can do AI search, but with AI, they're just searching what's already there. So some AIs are going to give you the references for where they found the information, but then you have to know that that's a reputable reference, right? There's a website online called American Dragon, and they seem to have, like, if you're writing an assignment, you can't use those references for it, but they seem to have a lot of like just the standard. These are the actions and indications of this herb, right? Fuling also is part the not Fuling, but there's a part within the Fuling called Fu Shen, which is a calming the Shen herb, calming the mind herb. So it does have an aspect, like when you've got fluid, it's not necessarily puffiness in your body. It does have a mind calming effect because it can be a fluid metabolism issue where fluid comes up in, like you get this rushing up of heart palpitations and things like that, and Fuling is used within formulas. It's not like it treats it by itself. You have to have it in the formula to kind of, because there's multi mechanisms that's happening to sort of treat those symptoms within a formula. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answers the question. And to find out about something in Western medicine, just like start with a Google search on Google Scholar. So Google Scholar is like the place where it will search all of the what do you call it, like the scholarly articles. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to run through a few of these questions here. Good to see lots of people in the chat. This is obviously a good time to do it. Monday morning, my time. Probably Sunday night, your time. Get ready for the week with Chinese medicine. Great. So thanks, Stephanie. That's a great question. MTFS-ish or something says, do you practice daily Tuina? Like, as in, do I give Tuina on myself? Do I do Tuina on patients? So the answer to both of those is no. Like, I used to be... I'm still very good at Tuina. Like, it's something that if you practice it as a skill, like a lot, you won't lose the skill of being able to do it. Like, my rolling is really good. I'm just saying, I'm good at it because I practiced really hard for many, many years. So when I was, so say for instance, like you could do Tuina on yourself like that, and you can feel how nice it is. And there's different, there's these sort of exercises, self-Tuina. Like, I very rarely do this stuff. Like, I probably should do it more, but I just very rarely do it. I will sometimes do that self-Tuina on your back and things like that when you're at the airport, like if I'm traveling. Like you just, sorry, my nose is really itchy. Yeah. On yourself, more like pressing points for daily maintenance, right? I can see the other follow-up question there. Great. So I very rarely do it, but if you feel stiff and sore, it's good. Like, sometimes I'll incorporate it into my classes when I teach live classes at uni. like you're there for 3 hours and the students, you can see them falling asleep, and you just say, everyone get up and we're going to do some exercises in there. When I go walking, I sometimes do like what I've seen them do in China, this walking Tai Chi thing, which is, I'm just calling it that. I don't know if that's what it's called. But it's like, you walk and you do certain exercises and you're just hitting yourself like while you're walking. Like sometimes I'll do that. I don't care if people think I'm an idiot walking like that. Cool. All right, Jacqueline. Okay, so Jacqueline says, I said, have you been studying? So you've been doing my course. Awesome. That's great. And you're of Chinese descent, so you must just inherently know everything Chinese. Not really. Yeah. All right. So where would you learn it in India? Let's get this question here. I'm just going to go in order of the questions. So this is one about studying Chinese medicine. Happy New Year. Anne Fender says, Happy New Year. I'm just going to put this on here. I'm interested in learning TCM and acupuncture. Where would you suggest I learn in the India/China region? Okay, that's a great question. I don't have an answer for you. Sorry, I don't know of any schools there. But I can give you some pointers, and this is for anyone who's like interested in learning Chinese medicine. So look, I know some people that have done extremely well in Chinese medicine, and they did the hard thing where they learnt it in Chinese. Like my teacher, Arno, did that. And if you're young, if you're like, 25 or under, that's a great time to kind of, and not that you can't do it when you're older than that, but like I remember being in China when I was studying in the hospital there. So I did my normal degree in Perth, and then I went to China for 3 months, and I was 21, I think, or 22 when I went to China, and I was like, okay, this is the best time of my life. Like this was, you're so carefree. You've got nothing. You've got no attachments, something like that. I had a boyfriend, but I kind of broke up with him when I got home because I was just, I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to stay carefree. And then anyway, that's a different story. Like you just have the ability to probably absorb the language easier when you're younger. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do it when you're older, but it's going to be really hard to learn Chinese medicine in Chinese if you don't know any Chinese, right? Excuse me. Now, having said that, there's so many translator things and help with that there wasn't back then. Like I remember the first time I was in China, 2001, it was a little red dictionary that I had to carry around everywhere with me. There was no apps. There was no mobile phone. Like the mobile phone had just come out and I didn't have one when I was in China. And everyone was just getting phones or just getting mobile phones. It was so... Anyway, different times. But there were no apps to translate things. It wasn't iPhones. It was just like Nokias and, the flip phones, Motorola's. So how are you going to learn TCM and acupuncture, right? So you may do what you've done now and just keep asking the questions and try to find some recommendations. There's a Facebook group on Facebook called Acupuncture... What is it? Acupuncturists on Facebook. Now, it's a massive group, and I normally don't recommend these massive groups because it's full of... I don't even follow that group. I think I'm still in it, but I don't follow it much anymore. But that's where you'll find people that are just all over the world, and you may have to ask the question a few times, and you may find that someone, can give you a recommendation. Then just say, has anyone ever studied acupuncture or Chinese medicine in India or China? Now, there are courses. If you want to do Chinese herbs, you want to do the system of Chinese herbs that I do. It's like technically a postgraduate herbs course, but I have known people that have done it as an undergraduate herbs course, as in there's no accreditation. So it depends on what your accreditation is going to be in the country you're going to practice in, and that's the next part of the question. So where are you going to practice in the end? Like, are you going to practice in India? Are you going to practice in China? If you're going to practice in China, I don't even know if you'd be able to register in China as a Chinese medicine doctor if you're not actually a Chinese national. There is a process there because I looked into it once. But you have to be like sponsored by a hospital or a clinic, and usually you can only see patients that you'll be practicing India. Okay, so don't worry about the China thing. So you need to look into what the regulations are in India, where you're going to practice, what they require, because that's the first thing. There's no point in doing a course that you love and then find out, I can't practice because I didn't meet the registration requirements. So there might be none. There might be no registration requirements there, right? There's usually two systems of registration. There's like what they call self-regulation, and then there's government regulation. So if it's government regulated, then if you don't adhere to those rules, you may not be able to practice. Now, with some government regulations, it's about what you call yourself, not what you actually do. So in Australia, the law is protection of practice and protection of title. So they're two different things. And some professions have both and some only have one. Like, for instance, GPs, Western medicine, they have both, right? So you can't call yourself something else and continue to practice that medicine. You'll be breaking the law. Whereas for Chinese medicine, it's only protection of title. So you have to kind of understand the legalities of what it's like. And now, I'm not sure in India, it might be the whole of India, or it might be each province or each state has particular regulations. So you want to find that out before you go and do the course. Now, if there's no regulation, then you're free to do the course that you want to do. And then you can kind of go, okay, maybe I do something where there's some kind of online component now, as well as a in-person component. Now, you have to do the in-person component because honestly, you can't be a good practitioner without some kind of in-person training. You need that. But there are plenty of courses now where there's also, like, you can get access to really good teachers worldwide and travel to do the in-person components. And that's what I mean by the course that I did to do the herbs. So that's what I would highly recommend that. That's ICEAM. You have to travel to do the pulse and the abdominal diagnosis components of those seminars. And then you're going to have to figure out how you're going to you'd have to travel outside of India to the US or to the UK or Australia to do pulse diagnosis training if you want to be really good at that system. But if you want to do acupuncture and Chinese herbs and just a general kind of undergraduate degree, you'll just have to look into what other courses are around there. So, but the first thing I'd do before you do any of that stuff is what I'd suggest you do is find out what the regulatory requirements are, so you don't go down, you don't waste, not waste your time, but hopefully that answers the question. All right. Someone's got a question about osteoarthritis. Let's get this one in there. So this is a great question because I think the same person. And how does TCM respond? Let me put this on the screen properly so we can see this. Oops, I'll put it lower so you can actually see me as well. How does TCM/acupuncture respond to osteoporosis, osteoarthritis? The doctor says the bone gap in my mum's knees has reduced, causing a waddling gait and a lot of pain. They're asking her to get her knees replaced, right? So in Australia, we have massive restrictions on what we can and can't say about certain conditions with acupuncture, okay? Because they want to make sure you've got sufficient evidence now to make a claim of treatment. Now, one of the few studies that have been done that show a positive result or a potential for a positive result is actually knee osteoarthritis. So I can talk about this freely, not freely, but as in there's like, we can say that acupuncture can help. Now, what can it help with? It's not going to regenerate the bone. Surely it's not doing that, right? I mean, the only way you'd know is if you go and have a scan and then you have another scan and then you can really see and stuff like that. I doubt it's doing that. I don't think it's doing that at all. But it can reduce the pain. So the pain associated with osteoarthritis of the knees is something that has been shown to have a positive result with acupuncture. Now, in my practice, I always, unless the patient's allergic or they've got a cough condition, I always use moxibustion with it. Now, in the studies, they don't always do the moxa, but I have found that moxibustion on the knees is like way more effective than just the acupuncture alone. So what we'll do is I'll use acupuncture needles and then put the moxa on the end of the needles, and then you heat that and it lets the heat go down into the points. Now, there's like 4 points around the knee that we would usually use. It's just called a surround technique, or I just call them the 4 knee points. I think that's because what my teacher called them, right? So stomach 36, stomach 34, spleen 10, spleen 9, right? So you're kind of covering around. And then on the inside of the knee, there's points like kidney 10, liver 8. Those sort of points would be stuff that we would kind of try to use. And then doing the moxa on there, I would... Now, if you know how to do moxibustion and you've got a moxa stick, you could possibly do that on your mum's knee for her, but you need to be properly trained in moxibustion because it's easy to burn yourself if you don't know what you're doing. So I'm not going to teach you how to do that in this chat because it would take a long time, and this is something that your practitioner can actually show you how to do it yourself. And there are little devices and stuff you can buy online that will help you to use moxa more effectively, but it still doesn't negate the potential to burn yourself. Like, you can put the moxa stick in a box and it still can burn you if you don't do it properly or you don't pay attention to it. So yeah, it can be very useful, moxa for an acupuncture for the knee. Now, herbs wise, like if I had a patient that had this issue, this is one of the things I would recommend they definitely would do acupuncture for. Because I do a lot of herbs now, I have had some patients that, they're like, I just want to try the herbs only. And then I don't have any clinical evidence of patients that have only had herbs and not acupuncture, because most people for this would have acupuncture. And usually, I think in those studies, it's about 6... let me see if I can find the study for you. I'll put the link in the description. I'm going to put a link to this thing, which has the links to the other things. So this is called the Acupuncture Evidence Project. Now, it's a little bit older now, as in it's not like it's out of date, but there's newer research on top of this research. But if you go into this publication that I've put here, you can look into the knee osteoarthritis and find the individual studies on the knee osteoarthritis. I may have them on my computer here just as a link. I'll just have to look for it. Yeah, okay, knee osteoarthritis. All right, I'll put all those links. I've got them here on my computer. Oh, it's saying I've got... Oh man, it's saying it's too much writing. I can't even put one reference in the chat. It's too much writing. That's a bummer. Yeah, that's annoying because the reference is the whole thing. I can't copy and paste them into the chat. Sorry. Cool. All right. I've got 15 minutes left. I have to go because I've got booking at 10:30. So Yeah, someone said couldn't type in detail due to the word limit. Yeah, exactly. It's annoying. Yeah, so if Guy, just to finish up with this question, so you have to balance out between the age of a person. If they get a knee replacement, their life can be really significantly improved. So I'm not saying don't get that surgery, but for some people, a surgery is, potentially a more risk for them than other people getting that surgery. So there could be that to sort of weigh up the consequence of that. And for some people, the surgery is because of the pain and the discomfort. And if that goes away and they can manage it, depending on the country that you're in, sometimes surgery is cheaper than acupuncture because the government's going to pay for the surgery when you eventually get it, for if you're in Australia. Whereas if you go and do acupuncture and you have to do this once a week for, 2 months or so, you have to pay for that out of pocket. So there can be those costs to consider as well. Yeah. And I mean, you do the surgery, there's no guarantee it's going to be fixed. You do the acupuncture, there's no guarantee it's going to be fixed either. So both of them can, there's less risk of something worse happening from acupuncture than from surgery. But there's more chance with a surgery. You said your mum's like 68. It's not just it might not just be the pain. It might be quality of life, being able to walk better. And the surgeries are getting better and better all the time. Like the recovery rates is usually better. And I've certainly seen heaps of patients in my clinic who've had knee replacements and they've had really good results. And they've said, I had this knee replaced ages ago and, ever since then it's been so much better. So one option is that I would advise my patients to do if they come and see me at that point, because usually there's some kind of waiting list. They don't just kind of go and get the surgery straight away, is do the acupuncture, at least once a week for 6 weeks. That's usually what I'd recommend. And then put themselves on the waiting list. And when the surgery time rolls around, they can either push it out further, if they can do that, or just, maybe they don't need it anymore and they're okay. They might be good to go. Now, usually with this kind of stuff, it'll come back again. So I've had patients where, they're okay for a while and then months later, a year later, sometimes even longer, you'll see them again with the same thing, the same knee thing. So I don't think the acupuncture, like I said, it can't fix that bone pain. Now, is the pain coming from the bone? That's the other question to ask, right? So let's say a person says, oh, all of a sudden I had this knee pain, same as with the back, like lower backs are exactly the same as this. They wake up one day, oh, my knee's so sore or my back's so sore. And they go to the hospital or the doctor and they get a scan. They say, oh, you've got arthritis, you've got bony degeneration. So that pain just happened suddenly. But did that bony degeneration just happen suddenly? No, it's been happening for ages. It's been happening in the background, building and, they're just happening there. So that is something that, like the pain is just telling you that the pain isn't necessarily caused from that degeneration. The pain's caused from some kind of inflammation. And that's where diet and lifestyle can even come around, come into play as well, right? Like reducing inflammation. Like there's a surgeon I saw, an Australian surgeon that does back surgeries, and it was on a carnivore channel, and he was talking about patients coming to him who need spinal surgery, and he puts them into a ketogenic diet, people who want to do that, and sometimes they don't need the surgery because the ketogenic diet has reduced the inflammation, and then that's reduced their need to kind of have the surgery. It doesn't reduce the bony degeneration, but the pain's gone away, the inflammation's gone away, their quality of life is kind of back to where they need it to be, and everything's great. So yeah. All right. So I've only got another 10 minutes. I'm going to try and answer a couple more questions here. Hopefully that answers that question about knee osteoarthritis. So now we've got one about back pain. My back, I'm just going to read this as I copy it. My back pain is on the right side. While gua sha, I got pain on the left side. Right side is okay. Why is it? I'm not sure what the question is here. Might be the English translation. It could be me reading it out. Let me just do this again. So Taz Bergen says, my back has pain on the right side, while gua sha, maybe he's saying when I do the gua sha, I got pain on the left side. Right side is okay. Why is that? I'm just not sure what you're asking there. Sorry. Like the pain's on one side, but when you gua sha the other side, there's no pain on the other side. It's sounding a little. I'm probably bastardizing your question there, so I'm not sure. If you maybe just write it out again, reword it some other way, because I'm not sure what you're asking. I don't, and maybe I just don't have an answer for that. Please, I'm cold all the time. Hang on. I'm just going to do this other question. So I don't think I can answer that gua sha question. Sorry, I'm just not sure what's being asked. And here we go. I'm just putting this on here. All right. Robert says, I'm cold all the time. I'm 60 years old. Right. So this is, as we age, our yang declines. That's part of aging. So when you're born, you've got, let's say, 100 of yang, 100%. And then as you get older, your yang is going to sort of just kind of naturally decline. And yang is the life force. Yang is the heat of your body, right? It's the function. When we so as we age, that can be part of it. It can depend on the other things that you do. So other things we do can also deplete our yang more quickly than it's a multifaceted answer here. I'm trying to give it kind of trying to give an answer. So yang is declining, okay, as we get older. But also our body has different constitutions. Some people tend to be more of a drier type of constitution. Some people more of a wetter type of constitution. There is stuff that Chinese herbal medicine can do for this. So if you can go and see a herbalist, a classical Chinese herbalist, that means someone who does, in some countries they call it Jingfeng medicine, classical Chinese herbal medicine. If you need a referral, just send me an email at chinesemedicinepodcast@gmail.com. Just tell me not your address, but your suburb or your location, and I'll look up in my system if there's someone that can. Don't put your stuff in the YouTube's chat, because I don't think that's a good idea to do that. And I'll try and find someone who can see you, right? Because there's practitioners that do my system of herbs all over the world, in most places, not all places. So you need yang tonics basically to warm, or sometimes blood can be cold, right? So if you're cold all the time, it can be like people can be yang deficient actually and be freezing cold. They feel freezing cold, but they can also be yang deficient and they can be really warm, but their internal part is cold. So in some ways, it's actually better to feel cold and be yang deficient than the other way around, because you're kind of aware of it in some way, right? And living in different environments, like if you're living in the UK, it's a freezinger place than living in Australia, right? And so for some people, their constitution is kind of just more suited to certain places. This is why elderly, I'm not saying you're old, but older people go and live in somewhere like Florida in the US, because it's warmer, right? It's more suited to your aging constitution to be in a warmer environment as you get older, right? Just, you're going to have less aches and pains and things like that. But there definitely is stuff that Chinese herbs can you these kinds of herbs are very strong herbs. So if you don't need them, you you won't feel good on it. So you need to make sure that a proper practitioner is prescribing this stuff to you. And I have seen people's like freezing cold hands, like Raynaud's disease, this kind of thing where they've got freezing hands. It can get significantly better for like coldness in the body. Because that's kind of the system of classical Chinese medicine is based on a book called Cold Damage book, right? The whole book is about damage to the body by cold. And it's not just colds and flus, it's cold that comes in from the environment. Yes, it happens like that, but then that can take its toll on you and chip away at your resource. All the meanwhile, your body's yang is kind of declining, so it's like shit happens to you when you're younger. You can deal with that because you've got more resource. As you get older, stuff happens and it chips away at you over time, but you also, naturally, your body's yang is declining. You just have less resilience, less ability to bounce back. And that's kind of what's, that's kind of what, that's kind of what can happen. So, I mean, you can try some, the basic diet stuff is still, forgot to turn my phone on silent. I'll have to answer that in a minute. The basic diet is still going to be helpful for you, like things like warm cooked and moist foods, staying away from cold, dry and raw foods. So if you haven't seen those videos on this channel, definitely do that. Bone broths, meats, like they have more yang. Anything from an animal, chicken, eggs, or any kind of eggs, that it has more yang in it. So that kind of food can be really helpful to eat. And that's kind of good to have that. All right. I've got literally 4 minutes before I have to go. So we're going to quickly do this prostate question. How do you treat an... Oh, shit. I just turned it on silent, you little bastard. Why is it still calling me? Hang on. It's got a new phone. Last night someone, a random person off Instagram was calling. I'm like, how does this happen? Like, I don't know. Anyway, don't call me off Instagram. Okay, we've got this prostate question. I don't have time to put it on the screen, but it just, Sean Spence says, how do you treat an enlarged prostate? So there are formulas that treat women's health and men's health as in a sense of aging, right? And how men age is their prostate prostate issues happen. Let me just get this question up here if I can try and get it on. We'll do that. Now, so I'm not saying that this treats an enlarged prostate. So I hate saying these things because people, I hate saying a formula and then people say, oh, go and get that formula. This may be what a practitioner will prescribe you. So you may not need this formula either, right? And it's not like this formula treats an enlarged prostate. What it treats is, or it supports the men's function, right? You love that ringtone, yeah? It just came with a new phone. Like it's loud enough and it goes, boop, 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 boop. Like it makes me get excited about the calls when you don't even want to answer it. It's good to be in a good, I don't know, be pepped up in a positive mood. Anyway, Shen Qi 1 is a formula that is used for Shen Qi 1, S-H-E-N, Q-I, Qi, W-A-N, is a formula that treats men's health. As in, it supports men's physiology. Can it be used for women? Maybe, but it's not that commonly. I've never prescribed it to a woman, but it's not like I've treated millions of patients. There's a formula for women, Wenjing Tang, which treats women's physiology, supports the nature of women's physiology. So, this is kind of what we're thinking of when we treat prostate stuff. Now, how does Chinese medicine practitioners go about this? Firstly, we're going to ask you about urination. How often do you urinate? Do you urinate at night? Is there frequency with the urination? Now, the Shen Qi 1 isn't for all people, because there's some conditions where if you've got warmness when you urinate, you wouldn't want that Shen-Chi one. There'll be a different formula that we would use. So they're going to ask you about, do you have dribbling urination? Like, does it just come out and dribble a little bit? Is it stopping and starting? Is it hesitancy to start the stream? Do you go to the toilet at night? There's all kinds of things like this. Why is my aircon was like freezing a second ago, and now it's just not good. Anyway, so that's how we treat an enlarged prostate. Is we're going to ask you about all these other questions that are based around your urination. So that's kind of what we would do. Lisa Gardner, you've got a question there about hair loss. I have to go because I've got an appointment. I've got to call someone on the phone now. There is a video I've got about hair loss, so I'm not sure if you've seen that one about blood deficiency and yang deficiency on hair loss. So there's a video on the channel about that. That's probably going to give you more of an explanation, but then we can probably just pick up the questions from next time. So I'm going to do this stream at this same time every week now. So this is a Monday morning for me. It's going to be whatever it is for you, and this will be the stream time. Okay. Good. If I could get up. I mean, it's not like it's early in the morning, but I've got other things I have to do before doing this. But that's what I'm going to try to commit to. So I will not be doing this for 2 weeks at the end of January and February, but the next 3 weeks I'll be doing this, or 2 weeks at least. There's a public holiday coming soon on a Monday. I'll definitely be here next week. So if you've got other questions, think about them during the week, and keep on being great and enjoying Chinese medicine. And I'll see you again next time.